Hello my dear friends, you're on the Military Summary channel, and today we will discuss the situation in Ukraine on the 20th of June. But before we start with Ukraine, let's discuss Kaliningrad one more time. Yesterday we discussed that Baltic states, and in particular, if we're talking about Lithuania, they blocked any railroad transportation of any goods that is under sanctions. And this morning the Russian authorities confirmed and said and called the situation as blockade as well. So if we're talking about the Russians, they consider this action as blockade of Kaliningrad. You need to understand that, for example, this area, Kaliningrad, supported by oil and gas using the pipelines, and these pipelines goes from Belarus towards Lithuania, and after that towards Kaliningrad. So that means that this area has no longer any access to gas and oil that moves using pipelines. I can't tell you if the Russians in this area, if Kaliningrad is able to receive gas and oil using the fleet. I can't tell you, so we need more information to understand this. But anyway, if the Russians call this situation as blockade, so we can say that it's almost blockade. Some economy specialists are saying that it's just a matter of time when we're gonna see not just the railroad blockade of railroad transportation. I think that sooner or later we're gonna see the road blockade of this area, and mainly this was done also according to some analytics that this was done to force the Russians to start supply the Europe with gas using the Nord Stream number 2. As you know, the Nord Stream number 2 is no longer working, and according to the information I have, that Nord Stream number 1 is also not working because of some Siemens pumps in this that they were broken, and according to the sanctions they have no possibility to fix these pumps. So that's why Nord Stream number 1 is not working, and the second one is not working because of sanctions. So there are a lot of questions and there are a lot of issues, and then I see that the West countries and the European Union are trying to manipulate the Russians with this area. But as I told you, the Russian authorities called this situation as blockade, and they demand Lithuania to stop blockade immediately. And they told us that we are going to see the response very soon. So we'll follow this situation as well. Now let's discuss Ukraine. Also, yesterday in the evening we discussed the situation in Odessa. I told you that I think that soon we are going to see some offensive operation in this area, that the Ukrainians would try to take control, take this Island back, and it just was the matter of time when were they planning to do this. And exactly at 4 a.m. this morning of local time, the Ukrainians attacked this area. And there was a lot of interesting updates about this situation. First of all, and now we have some result, and we can say that starting from 4 a.m. the Ukrainians attacked some drilling rigs in Black Sea, and the web source map show us the area where these drilling rigs were located, somewhere here. So the Ukrainians attacked this area. For now there is no confirmation of which type of weapon the Ukrainians were using for this attack. Some sources are saying that the Ukrainians used their aircrafts. Some sources say that the Ukrainians use their boats, because they have some boats near Odessa and they can use them along this coast. And but we can say that this drilling rigs was a totally civilian construction, at least according to the documentation, according to officials, that it was like civilian construction. We don't know what was the real purpose of those drilling rigs in this area, but the Russians are saying that they were like civilians, and their main idea was to get some oil or gas in this area. And the Ukrainians attacked these rigs. Furthermore, somewhere at night, this morning, like 5 or 4 a.m., the Ukrainians sent their 4 aircrafts towards this area, and there were a lot of videos and a lot of confirmation that the Ukrainians were bombing Island. Later we get some update that the Ukrainians sent 4 aircrafts and just one of them returned back. It doesn't mean anything because the Ukrainians changed their tactic with their aircrafts. They're starting their operation from one airport, then they're flying to another place. Changing of airports allows Ukrainians to hide their positions. But if you remember, yes, I told you that Ukrainians sent here some S-300 systems, and according to information I have, the Russians sent around 14 rockets in this area, trying to bomb every single military position in this area, trying to destroy the Ukrainian S-300 positions, their Harpoon positions, their Bayraktar position, their airports, and so on. So there was a very heavy clashes in this area. I'll give you my opinion about the situation. To tell the truth, I don't understand the reason why the Ukrainians were attacking these drilling rigs. For me, this attack is pointless. You're attacking civilians, constructions where there were a lot of people, civilians, at least according to official data. And if you see these drills located very far from the coast, if we're talking about Odessa, for example, there is around 70 miles from Odessa towards this area, and if we're talking about Crimea, there is around 100 miles. I understand that to attack this area, the Ukrainians could use like not just their aircrafts or use their boats. They could use also their rockets like Harpoons or something like this that the Ukrainians have. And the thing is that this situation, I'm not saying that it's like correct information, I'm just giving you my opinion. This situation with attacking of these drilling rigs and the offensive operation towards Bile Island, of course, tells me that it was a planned operation and everything was prepared, but as I see, everything goes wrong, not according to the plan, at least as I see it for now. And I think that the Ukrainians weren't attacking these drilling rigs. This situation reminds me the situation with the airplane MH17 in Donbas that was shot down in Donbas in the 2015. If you remember, there was a civilian aircraft that was flying from the Netherlands towards the Malaysia, and this aircraft was shut down. For now, there is like investigation. Once the Russians are saying that it's Ukrainian who shut down this aircraft, the Ukrainians are saying that it was the Russians. So I think that it was some kind of the same operation. So the Ukrainians were trying to attack the Russians' fleet. But somehow, I don't know how the Russians managed to fool the Ukrainian systems, and the Ukrainians by mistake attacked not the ships but these drilling rigs. And the Russians used the situation. They found out the Ukrainians' positions, their Bayraktar's position, their aircraft positions, and they started their rocket attack against these positions, like trying to destroy and reduce the Ukrainian military potential in this area as much as possible. And the situation with the Ukrainian aircrafts tells me the same, that they're sent four aircrafts in this area, and as I understand, they thought that they managed to destroy these drilling rigs, and they tried to bomb Bile Island, but because of the fact that something went wrong, maybe some of these aircraft were shut down. We can say that there is a lot of fog of war in this area, but I'm sure that in a day or in a two we're going to have more updates about the situation and we'll understand what really did happen in this area. Now let's move a little bit along the front lines. The front lines are stable, as it was like yesterday and the day before, just a few updates. It's a very important updates, so let's start. First of all, today we got the first confirmation that it's according to the Russian sources, so it's up to you to believe this information or not, but I must inform you about the situation, like official position of the Russians. According to their position, not even about the Ministry of Defense, but we can say about Donetsk People Republic, that today the Ukrainians used their American HIMARS for the first time to shell Donetsk, the capital of Donetsk People Republic. You remember that one of the most important points of the US was not to use this HIMARS system against civilians, against towns. Mainly they were talking about the Russian Federation, the territory of Russian Federation. But today there was first confirmation that the Ukrainians were using HIMARS and of course 150 55 millimeters howitzer systems against Donetsk. So it's very bad news, of course. We see that the shelling are continue, and we see that there is still no solution for the Russians how to fix this issue. The only one thing I would like to show you the West sources map. This area, this is the area, this is Avdiivka, this is Donetsk, and as you can see, the Russians are shelling this territory heavily as well. So we can say that there is no like place where the Ukrainians can hide. They're big shelling, they're trying to shell and trying to freeze, trying to put on the ground every single Ukrainian in this area. So it's very interesting and very dangerous situation, we can say. Now let's move to the north to our Toshkovka. Today we got the final confirmation from the Russians. As you can see, the map has been updated. You see that like a week ago, we can say that this area has three parts: the west, the East Toshkovka, Central Toshkovka, and the Chihirova, some block in this town. Like months ago, the Russians established control over the east part. The previous week, we saw videos and updates that the Russians established control over the middle part. And yesterday in the evening, this morning, we got more and more updates that the Russians took Chihirova, the final part of Toshkovka. Of course, if we're talking about the West sources map, there is no updates about this area, that Toshkovka is still under the Ukrainians. We understand that this area is the key area, and from this area the Russians have a real bridgehead to start their offensive operation towards Belagora, Mirna Dolina, and Ustinovka. So we can say that by taking Chihirova, by taking Toshkovka, we can say that the battle for Lysychansk has started, because the next step is Mirna Dolina, Belagora, and this is the suburbs of Lysychansk, so it's like Lysychansk, we can say. As you can see, the West source map has been updated regarding Vrubovka. Now you see that Vrubovka is also under the Russians, and today there was another update about Gorsko-Zolotoye. The Chechensky forces announced that they are starting their storm operation towards Mala-Kamyshevacha. I don't know why do they call this area like Mala-Kamyshevacha. Kamyshevacha is like it's not a big town, but as you can see, it's a very long town. It starts here on the railroad and it ends right near Zolotoy. So there are like three parts. The railroad part was taken like months ago. A few weeks ago, the Russians announced that they took the middle part, and this morning the Chechensky forces announced that they are starting their offensive operation towards the east part of Kamyshevacha. So they're like trying to encircle Zolotoy-Gurska area. Now let's update this map a little bit for better understanding, and then we'll continue. This is the current situation on this front line. As you can see, the roads are totally cut off from Lysychansk. There was a road that leads from Gorska towards Lysychansk, this one, and by taking Chihirova and Toshkovka, there is no longer this road anymore for the Ukrainians. Vrubovka was taken a few days ago, and we discussed that the Ukrainians can no longer use this road as well. And now the most important part in Gorsko-Zolotoye story is Novoivanovka. This one. This is the most important area. And who controls this area controls the forces in Zolotoye-Gorskaya cauldron. So what the Russians are planning to do in this situation? As I told you a few minutes ago, the Chechensky forces started their offensive operation from middle part of Kamyshevacha towards the east part. So they're trying to freeze and blockade the forces that located in Zolotoye. So by attacking to the east, the forces that located in Zolotoye are not flexible. They can't leave this area because of establishing of fire control from Orekhova. Let's mark this area. And from Kamyshevacha. So these forces that located in Zolotoye is already in the cauldron. Nobody says that, but if we're talking about the entire area, Gorsko-Zolotoye, so this area is an operational encirclement, operational tactical encirclement. But if we're talking about exactly particular Zolotoye, these guys is already in tactical encirclement. It's not a cauldron because with very big losses, like around 70%, they can leave this area, but with very huge losses. So from the Rubivka, of course, the Russians have a lot of ways to attack Novoivanovka, and they will do this anyway. From Toshkovka, Chihirova, they already blocked the road and block all reinforcement to this area. We can say that there is just one way to support this area, using the area between these two forests. We discussed this situation many times. And there is few days ago we also discussed the situation around Laskutevka, Pedlisne and Mirna Dolina. These three towns is like top of this cauldron. So of course the Russians are fighting for Mirna Dolina for a very long time. We see some icons and some confirmation about the heavy clashes in this triangle, like Bila Dolina, Mirna Dolina, Bila Gora, Mirna Dolina, and Ustinovka for a very long time. So the Russians are trying to push the Ukrainians. Also, don't forget about Borivska. So this, you see that Westeros map has been updated, and today they marked Metolkina as the territory that the Russian controls. But the Russians control much more territory than just Metolkina. They're like right in front of the road between Borivska and Lysychansk, and Voronova is also under the Russians, or at least in the gray zone, because there are very heavy clashes, and we can say that there are like few days left when we're gonna see and have reports that this area was totally cleared from the Ukrainians. So Borivska depends on Ustinovka very much, and the situation is critical. And as I know, according to the information we have, Zelensky are sending more and more forces to Lysychansk, and he wants to keep this area, not just to keep this area as long as possible. He wants to save this town, and he wants to stop the Russians on this river. He understands the value of this town, the value of this area, because if Lysychansk falls, we can say that there is no more barriers in front of Russians to push towards Kramatorsk or Slaviansk. There is no rivers, there is no uncrossable rivers in this area. So I'm sure that this week we're gonna see very heavy clashes around Novoivanovka and Alexandrovka. Furthermore, there are more and more updates from the area between Yakovlevka, Bilogorovka, Nagorno, Berestova and Mykolaievka. This area. Let's mark this area with the line. So bloody clashes are here. You can't even imagine. If we're talking about the Russian sources, they brought some statistic about this area, like some article about the situation. It was this report was prepared by the Russians, but if we are talking about this report, we can say that there is 14th Brigade from Ukrainian side who is standing there, and they lost around 2,100 soldiers just during the battles for this road of life that connects Solidar, Bakhmut with Lysychansk. Imagine yourself, 2,100 soldiers just for this 1 week. It's like these losses that are countable, like you can count them, right? More and more forces from this area, from the big land, refuses to go to Lysychansk. For example, today I got video from Seversk, like Ukrainian soldiers from this area. They were alarming and were asking for help because they don't have nothing. They said that they have no supplier support for more than 3 weeks, and there is no rotation for them. The situation is critical. Nobody wants to go to Lysychansk. This is the reason why Zelensky and Zaluzhny sent their foreigners and their special forces, because the regular soldiers don't want to die there, because its situation is critical. The situation in Mykolaievka is very critical, and I'm sure that maybe by the end of this week we're gonna see the first reports. You know that the Russians do reports. They announce about taking town at least 3 times. They're trying the first part, second, the third. But I'm sure that by the end of this week we're gonna see the first report of taking Mykolaievka. And if it happens, there will be one town for the Russians, one barrier for the Russians to encircle and to create cauldron in Lysychansk, the Lysychansk oil refinery plant, or the area around this town. By the way, more and more updates are coming from this area, and those guys from Seversk who was telling that there is no support for 3 weeks, they said that the Russians are still trying to cross the river. They're not like doing this physically, but they're bombing and shelling and doing some artillery preparation before this situation. Now let's talk about Lysychansk agglomeration. There is no changes but everybody says from the Ukrainian side, from the Russian side, that the Russians are ready. They did everything they need. They regrouped, they brought ammunition, shells, they brought reinforcement, so they are ready. And I understand as soon as Krasnopolye, Dolina falls, we had some reports that Dolina falls, but as I told you, the Russians announced at least 3 times before this situation happens. So that, like, sometimes they're taking town, but just part of this, and they're saying that they did this a lot, they did a total control, but sometimes it's not true. We can see this on the example of Toshkovka, right, and Kamyshevach as well. So as soon as Krasnopolye Dolina falls, I think that the Russians will start the offensive operation towards Slaviansk. So it might be by the end of this week. No updates from Izium bridgehead, no updates from Kharkiv area. The only update from Kharkiv area is that, according to Ukrainian military report, the Russians regrouping and they're bringing more and more forces to Kharkiv. And the only changes and updates, you see that the Russians changed the gray line, like the gray zone between these two areas. And there are more and more updates about clashes near Verkhny and Stary Saltov. And the Ukrainians have a lot of losses in this area. Today in my Telegram channel I published a video of Ukrainian losses, and it is terrible when the young man, not the young, any men are dying, so it's terrible. And we can say that that's it for today. I'll remind you that Military Summary channel condemns any violence in Ukraine. Thank you for watching, subscribe to my channels, put your likes, and enjoy your day. Bye bye.